Before this video begins, think of one belief you would defend immediately. A political belief, a decision you made, a relationship you stayed in, or simply an opinion you are certain is correct. Now ask yourself one question. If your honest answer is nothing, then you may not be protecting a belief. You may be protecting yourself, because your brain does not treat every belief as information. Some beliefs become part of your identity, and when evidence threatens them, the question no longer feels like, is this true? It feels like, so the real question isn't why people reject the truth, it's why being wrong can feel more dangerous than staying wrong. Your brain is constantly trying to create a coherent story, a story about who you are, why you made certain decisions, why certain people hurt you, why your side is right, and why your failures were not really your fault. Usually this is useful. Without a stable story, every decision would feel impossible. But there is a problem. Your brain often values more than accuracy. When new information conflicts with your existing story, something has to change. You can change the belief. You can change your behavior. Or you can change the explanation. And changing the explanation is often the easiest option. This discomfort has a name. It is the tension between what you believe and what your actions, memories, or evidence suggest. And your brain wants that tension gone. In 1959, psychologists Leon Festinger and James Carl Smith designed a simple experiment. Participants spent a long time completing an extremely boring task. They turned small objects on a board, again and again. There was no challenge, no real reward, just repetition. Afterward, the researchers asked them to tell another participant that the task had been enjoyable. Some participants were paid $20 to say it. Others were paid only $1. Both groups told the same lie. They said the task had been interesting. But later, when asked privately how much they had enjoyed it, the groups responded differently. The people paid $20 had an obvious explanation. I said it was interesting because I was paid. But the $1 group had a problem. They had told a lie for almost no reward. So their minds were left with two conflicting facts. I said the task was enjoyable, and I had no good reason to say that. The brain could reduce that tension in two ways. It could admit, I lied for no important reason, or it could change the explanation. Maybe the task really wasn't that bad. The $1 group was more likely to do the second, not because they were stupid, because changing the belief was psychologically easier than accepting what their actions seemed to reveal about them. That is the unsettling part. Sometimes your brain does not change reality. And this is where several psychological biases connect. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort. Confirmation bias is the filter. Once you hold a belief, you notice information that supports it more easily. And you scrutinize information that challenges it more aggressively. The same source can look trustworthy when it agrees with you, and suspicious when it does not. The same mistake can look harmless when your side makes it, and unforgivable when the other side makes it. Then comes motivated reasoning. You begin with a conclusion you want to protect. Then your intelligence starts building the case. Your brain becomes less like a scientist testing a hypothesis, and more like a lawyer defending a client. This is why people can sound logical while defending ideas they never examined honestly. They are not always searching for the strongest conclusion. They are searching for the strongest defense. The deeper problem is that beliefs rarely remain separate from identity. You do not simply believe a political position. You may believe that good, rational people hold that position. You do not simply stay in a relationship. You may believe that leaving would prove you wasted years. You do not simply choose a career. You may believe that abandoning it would mean admitting you misunderstood success. At that point, changing your mind is no longer just an intellectual correction. it becomes an emotional threat. You are not only saying, I was wrong about this. You may feel as though you are saying, I was not as intelligent as I thought. I ignored the warning signs. I trusted the wrong people. I built part of my life around a mistake. That is a much heavier sentence, and the brain often chooses the smaller pain. It protects the belief. It protects the decision. It protects the identity, even when that belief is no longer protecting you from anything real. And here's where the whole thing turns over on you. The story you defend may not be the story that helps you. It may simply be the story that hurts the least today. You might assume intelligent people are less vulnerable to this. They know how to analyze arguments. They understand evidence. They can identify logical flaws, but intelligence is not the same as intellectual honesty. A sharp mind can find the truth. It can also find better excuses. When a topic is tied to identity, analytical ability does not automatically remove bias. Sometimes it simply makes the defense more sophisticated. You can locate exceptions, question the wording, find an opposing study, identify a weakness in the source. Sometimes those criticisms are valid, but the uncomfortable question is, if not, your intelligence may not be guiding you toward truth. It may be helping you protect your preferred conclusion more elegantly. Being wrong is not the greatest danger. You can see this in ordinary life. You buy something expensive, then discover it was a poor choice. Instead of admitting that, you search for reviews that prove it was worth the money. You stay in a job that is slowly exhausting you. Then you tell yourself that suffering is simply part of being successful. You remain angry at someone for years. Each retelling makes your version of the event clearer, simpler, and more justified. Eventually, you may no longer be reacting to what happened. You are reacting to the latest version your mind created. This does not mean every memory is false. It means confidence is not proof. A vivid explanation is not necessarily an accurate explanation. And a belief that feels deeply personal is not automatically a belief that deserves protection. You cannot remove bias from your brain, but you can interrupt it. The next time you feel certain, try this 3-question audit. First, not what evidence would annoy me. Not what evidence would make the other person look foolish. What evidence would genuinely change my conclusion? If the answer is nothing, you are not holding an evidence-based belief. You are protecting an identity. Second, not the weakest version. Not the easiest person to mock. The strongest version. If you cannot describe the opposing argument fairly, you probably have not tested your own position. Third, your behavior, your relationship, your career, your political identity, your image of yourself. This is usually the most important question, because sometimes the evidence is not confusing. The consequences are, truth is not always rejected because it is unbelievable. Sometimes it is rejected because it is expensive. It may cost you pride, a familiar story, a sense of control, a relationship, an excuse, or the comforting belief that you should have known better. But intellectual honesty does not require you to hate yourself. You can be wrong without being worthless. You can make a bad decision without becoming a bad person. You can change your mind without losing your identity. A belief should be a tool, not a tattoo. The goal is not to doubt everything. The goal is to know which beliefs can survive honest inspection. Because the moment you ask, what am I protecting? You create distance between yourself and the story. And with enough distance, you can finally examine it. Not as a lawyer, not as a defender, but as someone who actually wants to know what is true. Your brain will keep choosing comfort when comfort feels safer. It will keep defending familiar stories. It will keep turning uncertainty into explanations. But now, at least, you know to ask. And that's why new question drops Tuesday and again Friday. Keep asking.